Hello, everyone, and welcome back to Book Talk with Cara. Today, we have my friend Rachel Hauck here, and I'm so excited because we are going to talk about her next princess book. And you all know I adore these. And this one is To Win a Crown. And this is in the True Bloods Royals,
Few Blue
eh,
Royals, right?
True Blue Royals. And I just actually downloaded or pre-ordered this one right before we came on because I love these books so much. And I can't wait to read it. So, Rachel, why don't you tell us a little bit about this one and the series as a whole? Because we've been waiting for this one a little while.
We've been waiting for this one for a little while. So everybody, kind of refresh your memory. We could use them for pre-orders, but because it has been a minute since book two, To Save a King, came out. I wish I could show you all the book, but it's all being finalized and uploaded right now as we speak. So I don't have an advanced copy yet. I am producing this myself, like I did with the first True Blue Royals. So this is about a country in the North Sea called Lockton Land that I invented. And the first one was called To Love a Prince, and it was about this guy, Prince Gus, who we first see or hear about in Fifth Avenue Story Society. If you've read that book, you remember Coral left a prince at the altar in front of millions. Well, that's his story, is To Love a Prince. And then he had an older brother who he was hosting his wedding ball. But in book two, we were with Prince John, and we learned that he's been widowed. But also in book one, we learn that there's a secret princess. There's a daughter of the queen that nobody knew about. And so that's kind of the big expose that happens in book one. So the queen sends Prince John in book two on a mission to my fictional town in Tennessee called Heart's Bend, several books sitting there, set in that setting. And he has to find his sister. You think, well, queen, put your big girl pants on and go. But it's her vulnerability. Like, I had to reject this girl 35 years ago. I had to leave her behind because of I'm the crown prince. I was the crown princess. Now I'm the queen. And so on that mission, he meets someone and falls in love. So that's To Save a King. Well, Scotty's part of the story, and she does finally meet her mother, Queen Catherine. And then I kind of left you hanging, like,
What's going to
what's
happen?
gonna happen? And I went off and wrote, you can see there in the back, it's the best summer of our lives, because I don't know, I had a nice offer from a publisher, and I thought, okay, let's do that. And so we're back to finishing Scotty's story. Thanks for all of you who kept asking, where's Scotty's story? Where's Scotty's story? So now we meet Scotty. It's about 3 years later. And she's trying to remember, she's the heir to a fashion menswear brand. So she's like, I'm gonna run O'Shea Shirts. Our great grandfather founded it. This is my kingdom. This is my destiny. But she's got this news about her mother, and she really wants to know her mother. One of the barriers is kind of, she happens to be a queen, and that's weird. Also, that little country in the North Sea, which if you've read the Royal Wedding series, is right tucked in there with Brighton Kingdom and the Grand Duchy of Hessenberg. And then there's Lockton Land. And she kind of, they're tired of Americans coming over there and being part of their royal family. So we got enough American princesses in Lockton Land, because Gemma had an adopted daughter and now she's a princess. So, but Scotty goes because the queen asked her, and there's a good scenario on how that happens. And of course, she gets a hunky bodyguard to look after her. And so that's the story. Scotty O'Shea and Michael Cross. He's her bodyguard, her equerry, and for those of you who don't know what that is, basically he manages her schedule. So he goes everywhere she goes. So we have a little forced proximity trope there. Friends to lovers trope, forced proximity, bodyguard. And it's really about Scotty coming into her true destiny. And one of the things I love, Cara, about writing royal stories is it's such a great biblical metaphor. It's such a great heavenly metaphor of who we are. I don't even have to mention it. It just kind of shows up itself. The metaphor speaks for itself. And so she has to decide, am I going to be who I thought I was, which was really the core kind of thread in Princess Ever After, with another long lost American who was an heir to the Grand Duchy of Hessenberg. Different reasons for why she didn't know. Or am I going to stay stuck in who I am, or am I going to do this new calling, this new higher calling? And so that's kind of where she is, and kind of some romantic moments along the way, a devastating moment along the way, a couple of devastating moments. And then we find out what happens in the end.
I love it. And I can't wait. And now I'm like, ooh, I need to go back and reread Gus and John's story because
Yeah. Yeah.
I just love those. So when you think about this, what I love about these two series that you are referencing is they have all the fairy tale elements, but they're very much grounded
Yeah.
in real world
Yeah.
conflict and dilemmas, even as they have that Princess Diaries feel to them. So how do you balance that where there's still authenticity and I can still relate to it without going, oh my gosh, this is just a fairy tale?
Yeah. This is ridiculous. I think we can all imagine ourselves as a princess. And to be honest, and what inspired me in the first place was Princess Catherine.
Mhm.
And she's she's every one of these princesses that I've written or potential princesses. And that's she's just an ordinary girl who fell in love with a guy whose function was a prince of the kingdom. So she's just walking through all the normal things that we would all walk through and falling in love with somebody. If you fell in love with somebody who was the CEO of a company, certain things would come with that. If you fall in love with somebody who's destined to be a pastor, there's some things that come with that. If you fall in love with somebody who's a professor or a coach, there's certain things like, well, these big time football coaches, I mean, that's as close to
Yeah.
prince and princess as we have in this country, or a guy who wants to be in politics. That's really kind of how I grounded it. And I thought, this is an everyday girl who fell in love with a prince. And now she gets elevated to this Disney fairy tale title, but she's still human. She still bleeds like we do. She still has heartache. She still makes mistakes. But she also has what I would consider an amazing opportunity to do things for people and reach people in a way that you and I can't. We have great influence with our little kingdom. I always
Mhm.
say when I walk into Weight Watchers, I'm walking into my little kingdom. Like I feel like this is my space. Sunday morning at church and Weight Watchers. That's Rachel Hauck rules there. But I always feel like it's a picture of what we all should be. And so I think that's how I keep it grounded. And there's just enough news out there about royals,
Mhm.
especially the British royals, that feeds me all the fodder I need.
I love that. When I think most of us have either I remember waking up when Princess Diana got married, my mom woke me up, or, definitely Princess Catherine. And so and all those in between where we've had those and we went, oh, that would be nice. I wonder what that would be like. And then
Yes,
we get to see it and we get to see kind of that balance of they're still people and they still
yes.
have the same hurts and fears and concerns. So when you think about whether it's Lechtenland or one of these other duchies that you created, you're having to create the whole thing. It doesn't exist. So, what's a tradition that you had to create out of whole cloth for one of these countries?
How do I do it? Is that the
Yeah,
question?
like as you're having to create the whole thing, the whole dynasty, all the pageants and the holidays and everything.
Yeah, okay. Woo! Well, I did a lot. I actually looked back at the Royal Wedding series and I kind of skimmed through it and I was like, how did you do this? I don't even know
Yeah.
how I did what I did in the past. But one lot of research. The royal families of Europe are the most documented families in modern history. So there's just, I mean, I Googled around and now with AI as an aid to research, we can get at information a lot faster. But I Googled around forever and finally found like the script of Queen Elizabeth's coronation ceremony. So I was able to employ that in one of the books. I think it maybe was Regina's A Princess Ever After. And so there's just so many traditions. And to win a crown, there was a tradition that I created based on one of the Denmark royal families. Modern, they had given their daughter, the crown princess, some kind of award or honor or title that had the word swan in it. So I thought, ooh, that's pretty. So I created my own swan, the Order of the Swan or something. And unfortunately, I never got around to awarding it to the person in the story. So I'm like, well, let's just cut that. So they're just you. I just Google, and of course, then you allow yourself to think. And then after the fact, I actually realized I wasn't very creative at all. There's so much more I could have done. but then you don't want to overwhelm the reader, and you don't
Mhm.
want to overwhelm the story because it's really a love story, and I don't want to overwhelm it with things. So you try to look for those one things that you can drop into the story. Of course, there's a ball, and of course, there's some a political aspect. And To Win a Crown, there's actually a political aspect that I started in To Save a King that I kind of bring to fruition. So a little bit of balance with both, a little bit with the magical fairy tale part, the ball, and all of those things, and the elevation in status, which is kind of fun, and then the real world part. There's trouble in the land. People say things about you that aren't true. So
Yeah. All those elements that come together to make it feel so real. So, was
really,
there a moment in this story where the conflict or the tension between the public persona and the private reality revealed true character between the hero and heroine?
oh yeah, yeah, yeah. So the title is To Win a Crown. So I'm thinking Scotty at this point is 38 years old. She is known as a fashion expert in menswear. She's been on Good Morning America or this television show or that. She's traveled the world, talking to manufacturers, sourcing materials. She's designed menswear. So this is who she is. And so she's not unfamiliar with being in the public eye, but she's unfamiliar with being kind of elevated in the public eye. When you're an expert for what you
Mhm.
know, then you're cool with it. You can flow with it. But suddenly you're elevated just because of who you're related to. That makes it difficult. So anyway, she also doesn't pay attention to Michael's admonitions of please don't go out by yourself. Please stay with me. So through a series of circumstances, she ends up downtown, in Dahlem, this little town. Some of you might remember the pub that they all like to go and hang out at called the Belly of the Beast. Anyway, she ends up in this mob, and so I'm thinking to myself, how is she going to win her crown? I got to fit this title. So the story has to fit some element of this title, and they're all going crazy, and the people are fighting. No more Americans. We're for the crown. We're not for the crown. And she's in the midst of it. And there's this big brouhaha. Something happens, and she ends up being kind of the savior of the situation. And so now even more, she's in the public persona, and it kind of shows her character, but it also puts them at odds. He's like, what about don't go out by yourself? You didn't understand. And so she said, I'm sorry, I wasn't thinking. It's like, well, you're 38 years old. Think, but
Yeah.
again, she doesn't think as a princess. She didn't grow up in this world. So imagine if you were suddenly in that world and she knew that belly of the beast and she thought, I'm going to go down there, man. I got to think for a second because of a situation happened with her mom. And so I feel like that kind of revealed it. There were a couple of situations where they just had to have a come to Jesus meeting. So
We've all been there.
yeah.
So, this story really seems to get at identity
Mhm.
and the difference of, because you can have the title, but then there is that identity. And so, how do you hope readers connect with that?
Oh, that's such a good question, Kara. She's always saying, even she had a sort of boyfriend back in Heart's Bend, and he called her princess, and she goes, I'm not a princess. So there's this kind of constant denial, and kind of a real life story for me that the Lord adjusted in my heart is I don't have children. So I'm not a mom. I
Mhm.
didn't put in the hard work. I didn't carry the child. I didn't birth the child. I didn't nurse the child. I didn't wake up with a sick child. I didn't do any of that. But through the course of youth ministry over the years,
Mhm.
Tony and I had a lot of, kids. And
Yeah.
some of them would call me mom, and I would say, I'm not your mom. I'll be your sister, I'll be your friend, but I'm not your mom. I didn't want to take anything away from actual mom duty, So there was a situation with one young woman where our hearts just connected mother daughter like a chunk. And no matter how much I said, Lord, I don't fit the definition. We don't do tea. I don't take her shop. We don't do any of those things. But it was something that was beyond just the physicalness of being a mom. It was a heart, spiritual
Mhm.
thing that the Lord had done. And so I feel like that was Scotty, that there was a princess element to her that she was denying by birth through her mother's family. And so if you want to get really into some metaphor here, by birth through the mother, the church, A lot of times in scripture, when you're talking about the mother, especially in Song of Solomon, we're talking about the church, is that we are now prince and princesses in the kingdom of God. Yes, we're in the family of God. Jesus is the Prince of Peace, but we have this kind of royal status in the body of Christ that we often kind of, well, no, we deny it,
Mhm.
right? So we don't recognize it. And so I think for her, that was kind of the biggest thing. The journey was her getting to realize that no, she didn't want a title that she didn't earn, but there was something in her that was royal and regal. She had the blood of the Blues and the blood of the O'Sheas. So we have the blood of the kingdom and we have the blood of our flesh. And so that's for free. That's not in the book, but that's kind of like
Yeah.
the picture that comes out of the story. And in the end, that's why I love royal stories and this kind of transformation. When you find out really who you are, you can't go back to who you were.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
I love that. That gives me chills. And
Yeah.
that's awesome. So was there a moment when you were working on this and you were trying to get all these threads to come together where you were just like, this book is the last one I'll ever write if I can finish it?
Yes, 1,000 times. So I actually started this story before I took the break and did the books with and did some traditional publishing. So when I came back to it, I thought I'm in pretty good shape. I got like 40,000 words. No. I was not in shape at all. And there was some good stuff, but nothing that you could build a story off of. So I started again and again and again and again and again. I don't think, Kara, I've ever started a story over this many times and was always circling the drain, but never got sunk into the story. I am not kidding that I may have thrown away close to 100,000 words.
Oh,
I am not kidding.
that hurts my heart.
And I'll say some of them might have been double because, you're rewriting through a scene or something,
Yeah.
but it was going through it. And in the end of the day, cha-chunk, they were gone. So, and I think it was getting back into the royal mindset, getting back into Locked in Land, back into the Blue family. And it did not help me, even though I was very proud of these stories, that Susie Warren borrowed my family and she borrowed Locked in Land for some suspense stories. So if you guys want royals in suspense and royals on the run, Susie Warren has two really great stories called Creed and Fraser that kind of deal with the royal blues. And, Princess Amani, Princess Gemma's daughter through adoption is some of the as a key character in those stories. So those are really, really fun. So I'm reading those to try to figure out how can I weave in? And finally I said, oh, I'm so not a suspense writer. So I'm just going to leave that as an alternate Locked in Land, but do read those. They're super fun. And so it was just kind of like getting my feet wet. And there were moments where I thought, yeah, I don't know if this is going to be fun. But I do think, you guys, for now, I've reached the end of Royal Stories. I've written 7 of them and I feel 8 of them. And I actually feel like I've exhausted what is entertaining to me as far as Royals are concerned. If I come up with another idea, I would happily do it. But for right now, and I even thought about it, no, just do more, because I'm back to producing the books by myself, having a great time doing that, just a great journey. But I had another idea that just, Kara, the one that just
Yep.
dropped into your head. And I go, I have to write these stories. I mean, I'm seeing them. I know what's happening. And if I try to kind of force myself back into a royal story, it's not going to be good. So you guys got to follow where the spirit leads.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
Yeah.
So, with that, where can readers go to find out more about these books and all of your other books, Rachel?
Absolutely. Go to rachelhauck.com or, go to your friendly old Amazon and type in Rachel Hauck. So it's To Love a Prince, To Save a King. You guys, those are in Kindle Unlimited right now. So if you're a KU reader, you can blow through those. And then To Win a Crown releases what we call Wide February 12th, and that'll be Barnes and Noble, Apple, Kobo. So if you read on Nook, or if you read on any kind of generic reader of Kobo or Apple, you can download those books then, or you can pre-order them now. And then they'll be on Wide. It'll go from Wide to Amazon on March 3rd, and it'll be in Kindle Unlimited. Or if you want to own the book yourself, you can buy it for $4.99, which is a really great deal. So yeah, but I just think they're super entertaining stories. Mother and daughter can read them. So
I love that. And
Yep.
it's always great to have you here. So thank you so much for joining me today.
Thank you for having me, Kara. It's always good to be with you. Bye, everybody.